It can be very difficult to navigate an ERP or HCM implementation during times of uncertainty, whether it's an economic crisis or a health outbreak or economic uncertainty or unemployment, whatever the case may be. Those are headwinds that can create difficulty for a digital transformation, but it's important that you know how to navigate those uncertainties, and I want to talk here today about how to navigate the uncertainties during an ERP implementation. My name is Eric Kimberling. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting. We're an independent consulting firm that helps clients through their digital transformations. And at the time I'm recording this video, we're in the midst of some uncertainty in the world. There's a global pandemic, a health crisis internationally that's being perpetuated and growing every day. There's some economic uncertainty. The stock market in the US and in other parts of the world that we operate are not doing particularly well at this particular moment. And there's always something going on in the world. And during the decades that I've been an ERP consultant, we've seen a lot of uncertainty. There's always some cycle, a business cycle or an economic cycle or unemployment cycle, whatever it may be, that can create problems or headwinds, especially if you're a multinational organization or you operate in multiple locations. You're subject to not only macroeconomic global trends, but you're also looking at some of the local trends and uncertainties too. So there's always something to worry about. Some days or years are more uncertainty than others. But the key is, what do we do about uncertainty? How do we navigate the uncertainty? And how do we maintain momentum on our transformation when there is that uncertainty? And there might be bigger fish to fry or perceived bigger fish to fry during those uncertainties. And that's really what I want to cover here today. So one of the first things we can do when there's uncertainty is to look for flexibility in how we deploy our digital transformation, our ERP project, our HCM project, whatever it is we're trying to accomplish. How do we remain flexible and nimble? How do we adapt to the changing environment in a way that doesn't cause us to completely lose momentum and completely pull the plug on the project? Which a lot of times companies have the instinct that let's just table this project until things get better, let's bench our resources, let's stop spending. And a lot of times that can be very counterproductive, because once you cancel a project or put a project on hold, that creates a lot of lost momentum, and it also creates a certain amount of skepticism within the organization that can be very hard to overcome if and when you decide to start up the transformation again. So I would view putting a pause or a cancellation of a project as kind of a nuclear option, the last resort that you'd want to do. There's plenty of other ways that you can remain flexible and nimble to adjust to the changing environment in a way that doesn't cause you to lose momentum. One of the examples that we find, and we're seeing this in today's current environment that I'm recording this video, is we're seeing some companies that say we're going to adjust to some health issues and health crises happening in the world. We're going to respond to that by keeping our teams mobile and having more remote work and web-based interactions and ways of circumventing the concerns in the current environment. That can be one example of how you might overcome that sort of situation. Another one might be if there's economic headwinds, or your individual company performance is deteriorating, or it hasn't been as strong lately as it has been in previous quarters. It can be easy for your project to have the bullseye on it, but what we can do is get ahead of that and say, how can we readjust our project to right-size it for where we are today, with the expectation and hope that eventually we'll be able to get back to where we are today after we come out the other side. And so what we can do in the meantime is oftentimes you scale back or throttle back the run rate or the spend rate that you might be spending on your system integrators, for example. So that's one way that we can navigate economic uncertainty. So there's a lot of different examples in addition to this that I could give you, but the key takeaway here is make sure that you're looking for ways to get ahead of it, to react proactively to how you can get ahead of this and address the problem before it becomes too much of a problem that you can't overcome. One of the other things to think about as you're navigating this type of environment or this type of uncertainty is to recognize that change management is always important. It's always been one of the most important, if not the most important, aspects of a digital transformation. But in times of uncertainty, organizational change management becomes even more important, because oftentimes you're dealing with an environment where people have bigger fish to fry. They've fallen down Maslow's hierarchy of needs and they're back in survival mode, or they're somewhere lower on Maslow's hierarchy of the needs. They're not quite at that self-actualization mode that they might have been in the past. So now they're worried about their jobs, or they're worried about their health, or they're worried about the success of the organization. And so we've got to figure out a way that we can manage change really, really well now. Instead of just really well, we've got to manage it really, really well, because now we've got to help people through that transition, not just at the base level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but also how do we help them get to that next level of not only feeling okay with the way things are today, but how this transformation can help in the future. So we really have to recognize where people's heads are at any given time, because when there's uncertainty in the business climate, oftentimes that extends into people's personal lives and vice versa. So we need to recognize that change management, the people side of the equation, is one way to mitigate some of those risks and some of those headwinds and some of those uncertainties that we feel and experience as part of a transformation happening during these times of uncertainty. So one of the benefits of uncertainty, and if you want to look at the silver lining or the bright side of situations that may seem dire or may seem negative, is that if we do slow things down, or if we find that business is slowing down, or that our jobs day to day aren't quite as busy as they used to be as a result, it gives us an opportunity to really stop and think and be strategic about how we're managing our transformations. What are some of the things we can do to improve our processes? What are some of the things we can do to rethink our business operating model, our business model in general? Things that we may not have time to do during the heat of battle when things are really busy and we're knee-deep in a transformation and we're moving at a breakneck speed through that transformation. When things do slow down, or we experience headwinds or uncertainty and things slow down to a slower pace, we have an opportunity now to be more strategic and think longer term about our business, how we can make it better, and what can we do to improve our business so that when we do experience headwinds like these or uncertainties like these, we're better prepared as a business and we're more nimble and more flexible. So those are some of the things we need to think about as an organization, is what is that silver lining? How can we think strategically, look to the future, and find ways to improve our business so that we can be more successful in good times and bad within our organizations? Now, having been an independent ERP consultant now for about 20 years, I've seen a number of different economic cycles. Some of the most memorable ones that I've been involved with were the Y2K bubble burst in the early 2000s, and then the 2008 economic crisis globally about 10 years ago or so. Now, those are some of the most memorable headwinds and uncertainties that I can recall from an economic perspective. But one thing I remember in both cases very clearly is that coming out of those economic cycles, when things were kind of at a low and we hit the bottom and we're starting to recover and people were starting to get confidence again and start to re-engage in transformations on a bigger scale and digital and technology initiatives, is that they started to be a little bit more conservative and more deliberate about how they spend their money. So one thing I do like about economic cycles is usually coming out of a down cycle, companies are generally smarter than when they're riding a high. Usually when they're riding high, they aren't thinking clearly around why they're doing what they're doing, why they're spending so much money with not much to show for it during their transformations. But when they're coming out of that downward cycle, they tend to be very deliberate and strategic about how they deploy technologies. And in my opinion, that's how things should be anyway. So in some ways, economic downturns and uncertainties and other headwinds can actually force a discipline, or what I would consider an implementation best practice, which is to focus on business benefits. What is the part of your transformation that is delivering business value or the most business value? How can we invest more time and money in that? And how can we invest less time and money in things that are not delivering value? So one of the first things we need to do is build a business case and a benefits realization plan that quantifies the costs and benefits and the ROI of what do we expect to see from that digital transformation or ERP or HCM initiative. Once we have that as more than just a justification tool, we can use that as a tool to manage to those benefits to ensure that we actually achieve the benefits that we expect to realize through our transformation. So really focus on business benefits, use this as an opportunity to justify what you're doing, to maybe cut some of the fat, to invest more in things that are delivering high value, and be more strategic and deliberate, and invest less in technology for technology's sake, invest more in your business, more on the transformation side. So there are times where uncertainty and economic headwinds and other types of situations can create problems and perceived challenges for an organization and its transformation. But it's very important that we recognize the opportunities here as well. What can we do differently to be better in our transformations? What can we do to navigate that situation? And how can we navigate the overall headwinds more effectively? And I hope this video has helped provide some ideas on how you might do that as your organization faces economic and other types of uncertainties in the coming years. I hope you found this information useful. I encourage you to please provide any comments you have below. If you've had experiences during economics ups and downs or other types of uncertainties, I'd love to hear your feedback. Please also subscribe to my channel and like the video if you liked it. And I also encourage you to check out some of the downloads below. We've encouraged a lot of different links and downloads and information that will help you through your transformation. And I've also included my contact information as well if you'd like to ever brainstorm ideas on how to make your digital transformation more successful. Thank you very much for your time and hope you have a great day.